Okay, so in this video, we're going to be taking a look at how to create the frame for this mini neon sign. So this is going to be the frame that's going to be holding and housing that LED filament. There are dimensions you are going to have to follow with this if you're going to be planning on using that LED filament. So you have to kind of watch closely and make sure you create it correctly. All right. So in our case, what we're going to do is we're going to keep this kind of simple. We're going to come out and create a sketch. And what I'm going to do first is just come out and draw a line the height of my frame. All right. This is something that's just totally going to be made up at first. Okay. Because what we're going to have to do is scale this to the appropriate size. So, and the shape that we're going to be picking on this one is going to be a heart. So I'm going to come out here and just go ahead and draw my heart. All right. Shape that I'm looking for, just like so. Making sure that this is tangent here using my tangent constraint. All right. And now I can kind of, mess around with this, shrink this in, kind of resize this to the, what I'm kind of looking for. And I'm going to say that that's going to work just fine for me. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to grab this right side. Okay. Using mirror, I can now go ahead and flip that over to the other side. Okay, just like so. And once again, if we need to kind of resize, we can do that because we do have that symmetry that's already built in. All right. The last thing I'm going to do is using fillet is grab these two lobes of the heart. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of get this to a fillet that I'm looking for. Okay, and just go ahead and accept that. All right, so what we have to kind of work around here with is the LED filament is going to be about 11 and a half, 11 3/4 of an inch long. So what I'm going to do is just make sure that the path that I have here is about 11 inches, just to make sure I have enough that's going to be able to stick down through the frame and get into the box. All right. So right now I have no idea what size this is. So using measure, this is when I can come in and select this profile, and it's going to indicate to me that this has a loop length of 17.097. All right. So with that in mind, what I'm going to do is use calculator, pull that up, and I'm going to be telling it what I want it to be, which is 11, and I'm going to divide it by that loop length, which is 17.097, like so. And I can see, I'm going to have to scale this down by 0.6434-ish. Okay, so I'm actually just writing that down right now. Okay, so once I have that, what I can do is I can select all of this, come up here to modify, go to sketch scale. Okay, and the point that I'm going to be using is going to be the origin here at the bottom. And then all I have to do is put in that scale factor, which I calculated, which is 0.6434. Okay, I can hit enter on that. And now what I can do is I can come up here. Okay, I can go to measure, pick on the profile again, and I can see my loop length is exactly at 11 inches. All right, so it's perfect. All right, we're good to go. So now I'm going to go ahead and finish the sketch. Okay, I'm going to look at this, the home view, and now I'm going to come over here and go to extrude. Okay, so the type of extrude that we're going to use is not going to be just our normal extrusion. We're going to use a thin extrude. So I'm going to select that. Okay, the wall thickness that I'm going to be plugging in, okay, is going to be 0.157. Okay, the distance I'm going to send this back is going to be 0.118. Okay, and then what I'm also going to do is come to my wall location and change it to center. Okay, so we can see it's going to be building that out in both directions. The very last thing I'm going to be switching over is from one side to symmetric. Okay, and I'm going to be telling my whole length that I want that distance to be 0.118. Okay, I think my wall thickness just changed. That needs to be 0.157, okay, for an overall whole length. There we go. So we got it. All right. So that is kind of our first step with this. I'm going to go ahead and say okay. All right. So we can see our frame has been built. Okay. Before we go and shell this, what we're going to have to do is come and use an offset plane. I'm just going to be picking the bottom, and I'm going to be sending this down. I'm going to send it down about 1/4 inch. Okay. This is what's going to be sitting below the top of that box. That's this work plane here. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and say okay on that. Okay. I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to create a sketch right on this bottom work plane, and I can see, because I built that symmetrically, okay, we had that joint origin right there. So with the help of using project here, I'm going to project these faces through, okay, and then using a center rectangle starting here from the origin, I'm just going to go ahead and just take this up here to both of those sides, okay, and now what I'm going to do is make sure to make this the same, the width that the frame was at the top, which was 0.157. Okay, so we have that done. All right. I'm just going to verify that this is actually the thickness it needs to be, which is 0.118. Okay, and we can see I'd be trying to over constrain it, so we're good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish with the sketch. Okay, I'm now going to be using extrude, picking on the profile, and I'm just going to send this back until it meets into the frame, and then I'm going to be switching that over from a cut to a join, okay, and that's going to be the bottom portion of our frame. Okay, so we have the heart. This is the portion that's going to be sticking down into the box, which we're probably going to have to trim up here in just a little bit, okay, but we're looking pretty good so far. Okay, all right, so the next thing we need to do is come in and use shell. Okay, I'm going to be picking the top portion of this, okay, and I'm going to be picking the bottom portion of this to remove those faces. And then the inside thickness, the wall thickness, is going to be 0.043, okay, like so. I can say okay, all right, and there we go. That's the frame. That's what the LED filament is going to be snapping into, all right, and we can see it's the shape of the heart. All right. Now, the issue is that we need to have that filament that's going to be starting from the bottom, going up through the frame, and then ending at the bottom as well. Okay, because those wires, that filament is going to be stacked, two on top of each other. What we're going to have to do is come in here and blow this out and extend this bottom a little bit where it can accommodate both those filaments. So in order to do that, I'm going to come in here and create a sketch on this bottom face. I'm just going to come up over here to this edge and draw this across, keeping that perpendicular. And I'm going to go ahead and just put myself in just a reference dimension here. And I'm going to say it's going to be like a 1/16 of an inch, or 0.0625. Okay, I'm now going to be using line command, drawing a line straight up from the origin. And I'm going to say I want that to be a construction line. Okay, and now what I can do is, using mirror, I can select that line, come over to my mirror line like this, and say okay. Okay, and now what I'm going to be doing is finishing the sketch using extrude, and I'm just going to be blowing this out the back, okay, as a total extrusion where it looks something like this. Okay, all right, I'm doing that because I want to flip this over, create a sketch on the back. Okay, I'm going to use a little bit of project here and project all this forward. Okay, and now I'm going to draw a line here and keep this perpendicular to the other side. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put in a dimension right here. Let's try that again. I'm going to put in a dimension right here. I'm just going to reference this to be 0.0625. Okay, once again, I can go ahead and draw a line. Okay, I'll make that a construction line. And then using mirror, okay, I can select this line. This line is my mirror line, flip it over to the other side, and say okay. Okay. And then, just in order to finish all this up, I'm going to cap this off at the end with a line so I can get that whole profile. Now I can finish with the sketch. I'm going to go ahead and use extrude, and I'm going to extrude this towards me at 0.0625. Actually, that's not true. It needs to be the thickness of the wall. Let's try that again. So if I came in and do a measure right here, okay, we can see that that's 0.043. All right, and now I'm going to go ahead and just do an extrusion here at 0.043. All right, so it's going to send it out the back, just like so. All right, so now we're going to have enough room here to accommodate both of those wires stacked on top of each other, okay? And that's why we kind of did that. All right, so just to kind of clean things up here, I am going to go ahead and add some fillets in, just to get a nice transition between them. I can make that a 1/16 of an inch, like so. And then I'm going to flip this over on the back side as well. And I'm going to go ahead and put in a fillet here, 0.0625. Okay, just a nice transition. All right, so that's what the frame is going to look like, okay, to accommodate that LED filament. All right, so now what we have to do is put some sort of a base on this so we have a place to attach it to the box that's on the bottom. So in order to do that, I'm going to create a sketch right here on the front of the frame. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a center rectangle. I'm going to track this off of the origin. I'm going to go ahead and draw this out like so. And I'm going to be making sure that this is vertically aligned to the origin. And then I'm going to be making sure that this point is horizontally aligned, okay, to that intersection. All right. And now what I can do is go ahead and just add in some dimensions. So I'm going to say that this thing is going to be, 1/2 inch wide. Okay. And then I'm going to say the thickness on this is going to be 0.08. Okay. Just to give it a little bit of thickness to it. Okay. And then this is when I can go ahead and finish with the sketch. Okay. I can use extrude. I'm going to go ahead and extrude this to the back like so. Okay. And now we have that sort of base. Okay. A little bit thicker, just a little bit of support. Okay. And it's going to be good to go, to attach to the top of the base. All right. So this obviously is going to be overkill. All right. So you can just always come out, use extrude or press pull. Okay. You can pull this up, and we just want to leave a little bit in there just to kind of be able to snap into the actual box. Okay. Like so. All right. So there you go. That's how we can create, okay, our neon frame that we're going to be using for this project. And then obviously we can go ahead and we can send this over to 3D print.